Hi everyone, it's Agnieszka from 5 Minute Language. Welcome to my channel. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already and give this video a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. So in today's video, I'm going to share with you some of my tips for false beginners. And I'm sure that you guys have been there before. I have certainly been there several times where I started to learn a language and then I stopped for quite a long period of time. And then I picked up the language again. So I wasn't really a beginner. I knew a little bit, but there were things that I couldn't really recall. I knew that I knew some words and I knew some grammar, but I couldn't really use it if I wanted to have a conversation. So if you're in this situation, you can classify yourself as a false beginner. And I'm going to give you 4 tips to implement into your language learning routine to make sure that you're not repeating the same thing again and that you're making the most of the stuff that you learned, even if it was a long time ago. So my first tip is jump straight into something that seems way too hard, because often the temptation is, when you're a false beginner, when you've done the language before, the temptation is often to start from scratch and just repeat the same material that you've already gone through. And basically the problem with that is that you may be aiming too low. So if you start from somewhere that seems too difficult, you will be able to kind of scale down from there. So you will be able to reduce the level of difficulty, and that way you will be able to get to the right level of challenge for yourself. Otherwise, if you're starting from somewhere that's way too easy and you just go up a level to something that's less easy and a little bit more difficult, you might actually not be stretching yourself or challenging yourself sufficiently. But if you start from something that's way too difficult, then it's easier to find the right level and also the right level of challenge for you. So I would say jump straight into something like reading a newspaper or reading a short story or like a simplified novel. And then if that seems too difficult, then just scale it down slowly and make sure you find the right level for yourself. Okay, my next tip is to build on your vocabulary that you already have. You might not be able to actually recall it very well, but there is a good chance that you have some basic vocabulary already. So rather than focusing on building new vocabulary, I would encourage you to focus on expanding your vocabulary, so building your knowledge of synonyms. So there is a good chance that if you've done the language before, even if it was a long time ago, you learned some of the basic words like big and small and good and bad and basic things like that. So instead of going over those words again, try to focus on synonyms straight away. So what are the synonyms of the word good or interesting or bad in the language you're learning? Once you start learning those synonyms, the basic words that these words will be synonyms of will come up inevitably. So you will get a little bit of revision, but at the same time, you will be expanding your vocabulary rather than just going over the same thing again. My third tip is get new resources. And I know it sounds like a bit of a waste, because if you've got a book lying around already, then why would you get rid of that? Why would you get something new? Well, the thing is, if you've already used that book once, and I know that many of us have done the same thing twice or even more times. We started learning a little bit of Spanish and then we stopped, and then we started again, and then we stopped, and then we started again. And each time we used the same textbook or the same resources. Well, the thing is, when you do something again, it won't be new, it won't be as engaging. You will find it more difficult to actually engage with the stories or the different ways that things are explained in those books. So dumping those books and starting from scratch, starting from something completely new, might be the way to go. It might be something that will subconsciously give you a little bit extra motivation and improve your progress. And my fourth tip is don't forget your grammar. So when you're a false beginner, because you've done a little bit of the language before, you may have some basic vocabulary and you may have some basic knowledge of grammar as well. So you might actually be quite a confident communicator. You might be able to communicate in full sentences even. And of course, they won't be correct sort of grammatically because you are still a beginner, but you may be able to say sentences. So the temptation often when you're a false beginner is to just carry on like that and just expand your vocabulary, just concentrate on speaking and ignore the grammar side of things a little bit, because you kind of know how to build sentences already. So that's a temptation often, but I would definitely say, even if you feel like you're a confident communicator, you might be saying things to people that are not grammatically correct, but people understand you. I would still encourage you to focus on grammar and make sure that you incorporate the learning of grammar into your everyday practice. That way you will continue to develop your confidence, you will continue to build your vocabulary, but you will also make a little bit of progress every day when it comes to grammar, when it comes to making sure that your sentences are grammatically correct. So I hope you guys enjoyed these 4 little tips. Give it a thumbs up if you did, and I will see you next time. Bye!